party people. Welcome back to another edition of Sportsbook Confidential. My name is John Sullivan, and I'm coming to you live from the FingerLakes1.com studios in Seneca Falls, New York. And this little show here is to help you learn and grow as a sports bettor. And today's show, we're going to do kind of an exercise in continuation from last week's show. We talked about what's Black Friday for sports bettors. In other words, what are some of the best value days for sports bettors? And it's not that today is specifically one of those days, but with 2021 approaching very quickly, I thought we would do an exercise in looking for value by looking at the championship odds for some of the seasons coming up. We have the NBA starting in a couple of weeks. NHL was originally planning to start the first week of January, but I think they've pushed that back to about the third week of January. And, of course, we have college basketball in full swing. And conference play is going to start right around between Christmas and New Year. And then that will continue on to the NCAA tournament. So between now and June, we have those three leagues or divisions having their championships. So we're going to look at those championship odds. And, of course, we've been doing the NFL every week, and we're going to continue that with Week 13. Got some pretty heavy favorites this week. So we'll break down all the games and take a look at what my model says about that. But before we do any of those things, we're going to do what we always do and update my bankroll. And we managed a winning week, thank goodness, after a losing week last week. We had the Bills minus 4.5, and they sure tried to make that game close, but they ended up winning by 10. So that was a win, $15 to the bankroll. We got a -1 on that wager because it closed at 4, and that really mystified me. The Bills at home, it went from 5.5 all the way down to 4, and I figured it would swing back to 5, but it did not. Saints over 43.5. That, of course, was a loser. They played the Broncos, who didn't have any of their quarterbacks. At the time I made the wager, that wasn't announced. So I did not, obviously on the show, I can't buy out of the position, and I did not buy out of the position. I just let it ride. They scored 34 points in the game. It was 31-3. Minus $16 to the bankroll. -1 because we did not beat the closing line. And then the Bengals plus 6.5, and that was a winner. The back door was open there. Bengals scored a touchdown with about 2 minutes left to make it a 2-point game, and they actually had the ball back with a chance to win the game with a field goal, and they could not. But I figured they would play the Giants close at home, and the model said to take that was the biggest swing on the board, so to take that number. We got 0 on the count, but plus $15 to the bankroll. So if you do the math, that's a gain of $14 to the bankroll, and that makes our new bankroll $481. And dividing by 30, as we always do, because we're selective sports bettors and we try to keep the number of wagers low, our bet size will continue to be $16. And our new count, for those of you not familiar with the count, if you beat the closing line, you get a +1. If you tie the closing line, you get a 0. And if you do not beat the closing line, you get a -1. So our count went from +7 to +5. However, we're still, because it's a positive number, we're beating the closing line more often than not, and that's a very good sign, which means we're finding value. So a decent week. Hopefully we can get a sweep one of these weeks, but I'll take 2-1 every week. I won't complain about that. So let's talk about championships, the 2021 championships. So what we're doing today is we're looking for value in early season futures. So pretty much year-round, you can bet a future on your favorite sport. The week after the Super Bowl's over, they have the futures out for next year's Super Bowl. And the same goes for Major League Baseball, the World Series, all the pro sports, college football, college basketball, my favorite sports like Aussie Rules and CFL. Formula One, anything that you might be interested in wagering on. So usually teams that underperformed the previous season provide the best value. So teams that underperform on the field and off the field may end up providing value as perceived underperforming. And the example that I've used several times on the show is the Green Bay Packers this season. They had their draft, and they drafted a quarterback in the first round, and everybody shook their head and said they need wide receivers. And they were coming off a 13-3 season, so they didn't underperform, but nobody thought they were as good as 13-3. And so they had very high odds, and I got them at 35-1. And they're looking real good for the division. They have an outside shot at the bye. The Saints would have to lose another game, and they would have to, they would have to continue to win. But they have a legitimate shot at the Super Bowl. So we'll see how the rest of the season goes if they don't get injured or whatnot. But the point being is that most of the pundits undervalued Green Bay as they've undervalued Josh Allen with the Bills. If he could take that next step, and obviously he has. So teams that underperform tend to provide value in the coming year. And then it's important to continue to check odds throughout the season to monitor changes in value. Now, there could be no news about a team, and then all of a sudden you see the odds plummet at the sportsbook. Well, that's probably because somebody placed a wager, either a large wager on that future, or somebody that's highly respected placed a wager on that future, and therefore the sportsbook doesn't want to take any more risk on that particular future. So you might see, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, whatever they are at right now, let's say they're at 25-1 to win the Super Bowl, and then you might see it plummet to 12-1 next week. Now, what's changed? Pretty much nothing, but somebody may have placed a big bet on the Tampa Bay Bucks to win the Super Bowl. So you want to keep checking, and you also want to keep checking in case a team that you had your eye on but was maybe not getting good odds earlier in the season is now getting really good odds to win the championship, and you may want to place a bet on them. So, the odds fluctuate as the season goes along, so you need to check from time to time. And then finally, don't forget to line shop. And for futures, this is really important because when you line shop for sports books, like say for an NFL side or total, they're going to be pretty close all the time. You might get a little bit better somewhere else, and in the long run, that really matters. But for just comparison shopping, they're not that different. But in futures odds, it can be tremendously different. A team can be 25-1 at one sports book and 40-1 at another sports book. And if you're, putting $100 down on that team, that's a difference between a $2,500 payout and a $4,000 payout. That's a lot of money to me. It is to me. So make sure you line shop. And we're not going to line shop here. We're just going to look at the odds at the local sports book. But I do want to emphasize that look around. And, if you don't have more than one place to place a sports bet, that is something that you might want to consider working on. If we ever get mobile wagering in New York State, that will be very easy because you could wager 2 or 3 different places on your phone. So, but if you are taking sports betting seriously and you have a profit motive and you're trying to be successful, that's a very important step to take. And we may do a lesson on that at some point. So let's start by looking at hockey. And I'm going to post this up here. And we're going to take a look at the hockey odds. And you can see the Colorado Avalanche are currently the favorites, followed by the Vegas Golden Knights, Tampa Bay. Boston, who is a perennial contender, is 14-1. I think that's tremendous value right there. The Flyers are an up-and-coming team. 15-1 is pretty good for them. I think the Maple Leafs are overrated. They have goaltending issues. The Blues were champions 2 years ago. They need to get their goaltending back to that elite level. The Washington Capitals are going to be contenders. We'll have to see how Henrik Lundqvist does. And then you get some teams that have pretty good value. The Penguins, if they stay healthy, Crosby and Malkin were out for significant periods last year. I don't know how Letang is right now physically, but he had issues as well. If they I guess Tristan Jerry is going to be their number one now. 20-1 is a pretty good number. Dallas Stars were in the finals, and they're 22-1, and that screams value. It's why are they ranked? Why is the odds so high on that? Maybe because they have to come out of the West. The Flames made some goaltending changes, as did Vancouver. Vancouver is an up-and-coming team at 35-1. Tremendous value there. The Rangers are probably another year away. Islanders they lost Boychuk to retirement. They need to fix a couple of things. The Predators need to fix a couple of things. I don't think the Panthers... I think the Panthers, the hockey players play there for the tax haven and the warm weather, and I'm not so sure that they've got it together. The Blue Jackets at 50-1 it strikes me as good value. They do have good goaltending. They just need to put it all together. And there's a few long shots down here. The Coyotes, nobody else really seems to be somebody that is contending. But I got a couple of things to say about NHL futures. And right here, teams making the playoff push. The trade deadline is usually sometime in February. And it may be different this year because of the schedule starting at a different time. Teams making a playoff push will load up at the trade deadline. So there's going to be buyers and sellers at the trade deadline. And the buyers are teams that might be in the middle of the playoff hunt, that might be a 4, 5, or 6 seed, but they're going to trade some assets to pick up some scoring, to pick up some goaltending, and go for a cup run. And those are the teams that you want to keep an eye on because they can go from an average team to a way above average team overnight. And you just have to kind of feel it out to see which teams you think will. A team like the Rangers will make those trades. A team, the big market teams, Toronto will make those trades. Pittsburgh has been known for making those trades. And sometimes it just takes a hot goalie to take a team to the next level. 2 years ago, it was Jordan Binnington. The Blues were in last place in the standings right after the first of the year, and he took them all the way to the Stanley Cup. So if we have a hot goaltender either before or into the playoffs, a team like Chicago that can score goals, if they get a hot goaltender to take them through the playoffs, they could go very deep. And I think they're 55-1 right now. So there's a lot of opportunity there. So take a good long look at these teams and see. Obviously, health has a lot to do with it. Players get injured for periods of time, or they get suspended, or they'll maybe out for COVID if that's still going on. So we don't know. But because of that uncertainty, the value exists on the board, and that's what we're looking for. So let's move on to the NBA, and the NBA is a very different animal because it's very top-heavy. You've got 3 or 4 teams that are known to be the favorites, and it's pretty unanimous. Obviously, the Lakers, the Clippers, and the Bucks are the 3 favorites. And the Bucks lost in the playoffs last year. The Clippers lost in the playoffs last year. Didn't get to face the Lakers. The Lakers had a pretty easy run through the playoffs. So there's a different tact here with the NBA because there's really not much value at the top of the board. Betting the Lakers at 3-1, tying up your money for 6 months for a 3-1 bet is not a prudent sports betting move, in my opinion. You're looking for something that pays 20, 30, 50, 100-1. That's and plus if you get a bet at 80-1 or even 40-1, if you tie up $100 of your bankroll over 6 months, that's worth it. I mean, that's for that kind of payout, for a $4,000 payout, that's worth it. So let's take a look at some of these teams here. Obviously, like the Celtics at 13-1, good value there. The Heat, which I believe were in the finals last year, 15-1. The Raptors, which won 2 years ago with Kawhi, They were very competitive last year at 20-1. Golden State is 30-1. Klay Thompson is still out. They'll have Steph Curry back. They'll have their new rookie at center. It'll be interesting to see how competitive they are. Let's see what else here. We got the Rockets and the Suns at 40-1. The Suns made some moves this offseason. They should be more competitive. The Rockets, of course, are one of the most popular teams. They can score points. The question is, do they play defense? Now they have John Wall. They traded Russell Westbrook for John Wall. The Trailblazers at 50-1. If they can get that supporting cast together, that will be a very competitive team. And then you've got some teams, in the East that the Wizards are 120-1. So you got Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook now, and if you can again get that supporting cast together, that's great value. The East is really way more up for grabs. Obviously, the Bucks would have to lose, but once again, the whole season has yet to be played. There's injuries, there's suspensions, there's all kinds of things that could happen. So let's take a look at some of my comments about the NBA. And the first one is it's so difficult to trade superstars during the season. You're not going to have one of those playoff push trades like you do in the NHL. The guys make too much money. The superstars have to be arranged first, and then they fill with all the supporting players because of the salary cap issues. And you're not going to see a big star go unless it's a one-for-one, kind of like that Russell Westbrook-John Wall trade. And those guys were making almost the exact same amount of money. So it's very difficult to make that happen. And it's difficult to make it happen even in the offseason. But with such top-heavy favorites, there's value on almost all of the bottom 25. And I agree with that. If you feel like a team that you follow, I don't know that much about the NBA. I watch it, as a fan. I don't really wager on it. But if you follow a team and you think they can be competitive at the playoff level, like a Pacers team or, a team that, or the Raptors or whatever, you can find value on those teams. It's out there now because the sportsbooks are basically saying, hey, we don't want to give you any value on the Bucks or the Lakers, but if you want to take another one of these teams, go for it. And it's hard to win 4 7-game series in a row. Even the Lakers didn't have too much trouble last year, but, it's not easy for anybody to do. So, and now we're going to talk about college hoops. And let me tell you, there's a lot of teams to look at. I think there's like almost 360 teams in Division I. But it's a very strange year. Let's take a look at the college basketball futures. And I can't scroll all these in here for you, but obviously Gonzaga is number 1, and they're 6-1. Baylor's number 2 at 8-1. Iowa's in the top 3, 8-1. You've got Wisconsin is in the top 4 of the rankings, and they're 12-1. Duke's 13-1. The ACC is not weighted very highly here. Virginia is the top ACC team at 9-1. You've got Kansas at 11-1. The Big 12 is not weighted very highly here. You can get a team like Oklahoma for something crazy. I can't find them, but it was pretty high. The Big 10, you got Michigan State at 15-1, Ohio State at 30-1. The Pac-12 is not weighted very high. Oregon, I think, is the top-ranked, top-rated Pac-12 team at 30-1. You've got some other teams like that are traditionally good teams. BYU, Notre Dame. Oklahoma's 100-1. Arkansas is 80-1. There's a lot of some of these the second tier. I wouldn't really call them mid majors, but like the Atlantic 10. You've got Richmond is a A10 top 25 ranked team, 35-1. You've got You've got UConn at 40-1. There's some really good teams that are offering tremendous value right now. Now, if I was going to pick a team to stand out for me, I definitely like Wisconsin. I would take North Carolina at 25-1. That would be worth a small wager. And I don't know about the SEC. I'm not really sure. Houston at 30-1 strikes me as a nice long shot play. Michigan is 40-1. Memphis is 80-1, and Kentucky is 9-1. Kentucky will probably be involved in the mix at some point. So if you want to go with a heavier, like a top 10 team, Houston is ranked in the top 10 right now, and they're 30-1. I mean, there's tremendous value in college basketball right now. It's very difficult to win the NCAA tournament, and the seeding plays way into how a team will fare. You know, when you get to the Final Four, you've got to beat the other teams to get to the championship. But some teams get much better draws than others, and without question in my mind, the committee plays favorites in the seeding, and obviously with the location of the games, there may be a bubble this year. Who knows what's going to happen? A lot of uncertainty, again, equals a lot of value. But do a little research. I'm going to look at college basketball this year on the show. I'm going to focus on the ACC. They're going to play a lot of games on Saturdays. So hopefully those games, those odds will be up on Friday, and we'll be able to do the games on the show every week. But I'm not going to do all the conferences. I'm just going to do ACC here. But pick your conference and keep track of who's doing what. And we got a few comments about the NCAA futures here. There's going to be limited non-conference play this season. Right now they're doing holiday tournaments and stuff, and there's not as many as there usually are because travel's so difficult and COVID's an issue. And some mid-majors and lower-ranked Power 6 teams will be greatly undervalued in the NCAA tournament, and there's a reason for that. There's only going to be conference play after the first of the year with maybe one game a week, which will be a TV game matchup type of thing. And there are going to be people that are just not going to be paying attention to Patriot League games or Big Sky games or Mountain West games. They're just not going to get the exposure that the Power 6 teams are going to get. But people are just going to be interested in who's the best of the Power 6, and they're going to pass on a team like Clemson, or they're going to pass on a team like Georgia Tech. And, you know, those are going to be mid-level teams, and they are going to be sleepers. And if they get a good draw, they might make it all the way to the Final Four. You don't know. So, again, there's some very undervalued teams here, and it's just up to you to go out and search for what you think the value is. And I don't have a formula to tell you, you know, how to rate one team over the other, but it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure. It doesn't take a Matt Patricia to figure out which teams are offering very good odds and which teams aren't. So I invite you to go look for some value and maybe give yourself a little Christmas present or holiday gift and make a futures bet on one of those leagues, something you see. Keep it in your back pocket for a rainy day, and maybe it'll be worth some money. So that's today's topic, and I hope you found that useful. And let's get right on to the week in the National Football League. And for those of you that don't watch the show regularly, I have the spreads and totals up here. And then in parentheses, I have my model that I do on a spreadsheet that gives a projection for each game. And I compare and look for value, and let's do that right now. We got the Raiders at the Jets. Sam Darnold's back for the Jets. Does that mean anything? Probably not. Adam Gase is still the coach, and they are better off losing than winning at this point. I don't know why they would try to win a game, but I have the model has weighted almost exactly what the spread is at the Sportsbook, 8.5. And then the model likes the under here, 46.5. Depends on the weather. I didn't look at the weather for this game, but doesn't intrigue me at all. There's a motivation issue here. So I say pass on that game. Then we have the Bengals at the Dolphins, minus 11.5, 42.5. This assumes Tua starts, but I would not be surprised to see Fitzpatrick at some point. I have it at minus 8.35, 44.02. So my model really likes the Bengals here. And I have to agree, the Bengals did not suck last week against the Giants. Of course, they played at home. And Brandon Allen can only get better with more reps, more practice, and more game time. So, yes, they could lose by 14, but 11.5 is a lot. Miami really needs this game to lock, to get a firm grip on an AFC playoff seed. So we'll see how it goes, but I do like the Bengals plus the points there. Browns and Titans, this should be a very interesting game. Minus 5.5, 53.5. Minus 5.45, 56.45. My model says over, but I'm not liking it. You've got two teams that can run the ball. And Cleveland has already proven to play conservative football, especially if they have a lead. And the Titans, they open it up when they establish the running game. Then they can throw their deep balls to their wide receivers, A.J. Brown, etc. So the Titans are not afraid to run up the score. Cleveland is more of a game management type of style they've shown this year. Not to say that they can't put up points. This game could go over, but even though the model likes the over here, that's a pretty high number. I would stay away from it. The spread's right on, so that's a pass for me. Jaguars at the Vikings, minus 10.51, minus 10.5, 50.01. It's right on. The Vikings need to win this game to stay on the playoff hunt. Jacksonville has no reason to win this game. But the Vikings, I just can't trust them this year. They play so inconsistent. I'm more concerned about them giving up points as opposed to putting up points. So I just, when the model's that close, I just stay away. You can obviously, if you watch the sportsbook numbers and you see if they move in one direction or another, you can see which teams are being favored in the betting. But that game doesn't appeal to me at all. Saints at Falcons, plus 3, 45, plus 5.11, 48.54. This game, obviously I like the Saints. The Saints put up 31 last week. The Saints put up points against the Falcons a couple of weeks ago. This game is being played in a dome in perfect weather. Model loves the over here. Model loves the Saints here at minus 3. I like the over. The Saints are going to score points. Atlanta can score points. If they made adjustments from the last game, I think they only put up 10 points. Or maybe it was 17. I can't remember the last time they played each other. But 45 is a doable number. I like that at 45. Above 45, not so much. Colts at the Texans, plus 3.5, 50.5. I have this game as pretty much a coin flip, plus 0.81, 51.53. So the total's right about where it's supposed to be. You would think the Colts will score points. The question is, will Houston keep it close? 3.5 is a lot. I like that better at 4. But I lean towards the Texans. I don't think I would make a wager on that game. Lions at the Bears. Bears minus 3, 44.5. They have it at minus 2.59, 46.45. So my model likes the over. It is outdoors. The Lions are the Lions. Who knows what they're going to do this week with a new coach? Not really sure. My goal is to stay as far away from that game as possible. And good luck to those of you that bet on the Lions. Giants at the Seahawks, minus 10, 47.5. My model has it at minus 8.91, 49.46. So my model likes the over. It likes the Seahawks. And the Seahawks have played a lot of one-possession games this year, as they did last year. And they're good at home, but 10 points is a lot. And the Giants, are in the midst of a division hunt. So, they're going to play like they need to win this game to make the playoffs. Very likely will be a one-possession game, in my opinion. So I don't like the -10. We'll have to see what happens. Rams at the Cardinals. Cardinals plus 2.5, 48. I have it at plus 3.33, 47.13. So my model likes the Rams after their bad showing last week. I think they get a little easier defense, but this is not a gimme game at all. You could take the home dog. I could see taking the home dog here. Getting 3 would be much better than 2.5. So we'll see how that shakes out. The Cardinals kind of need this one to keep their playoff drive alive. Eagles at the Packers, minus 8.5, 47.5, minus 10.19, 51.56. So my model loves the over here, likes the Packers. I did look at the weather for this game. It's supposed to be about 40 degrees, between 35 and 40, 10% chance of precipitation. So it's not going to be snowing. And the Packers will score points. The Eagles will probably score some points, either garbage time or they will score a couple of touchdowns and keep it close. 47.5 is about as high as I would go with this. At 48, I certainly don't like it as much. But 47.5, I like the over there. Patriots at Chargers. Chargers plus 147.5. I have the Patriots as 2.2, 0-point favorites, 47.29. So that's a 3-point swing to the Patriots. If you can get the Patriots money line and see what that's at a good number, that might be worth looking at. The total's right on. The question is, do the Patriots have enough in the tank to make the playoffs? I can't tell if Belichick's trying to win or not. This is kind of the silly season for the NFL these last 3-4 weeks. If you start to see Newton come out at any point in this game, that means that he believes that the season is a wash. So we'll see what happens with that. Now, I don't know if the Chargers play so well and then they just give the game away, it seems. So you got to like the Patriots there. Broncos at Chiefs, minus 13.5, 50.5, minus 17.29, 49.86. Broncos have their quarterbacks back. The big question is, do they get any of their defensive line back? It's a division game. My model has been really good on large spreads, better than in past years. I would not take this at 14, but at 13.5, I guess I would take the Chiefs. I don't like laying that big of a number, even with the Chiefs. They have the fastest man in the NFL in Tyreek Hill, and they have the best quarterback in the NFL. And, it's easy for them to win by 2 touchdowns, but I would not be surprised if this was a 10-point game. I just wouldn't. The Broncos, you can tell how important a quarterback is to an NFL team just by the difference between this week and last week with the Broncos. So we'll see how it all shakes out. Washington team at the Steelers, minus 8.5, 42, minus 13.23, 42.25. Of course, I like the Steelers here, but laying 8.5 is not something I want to do. That's just a bad number. 8 is better. 7.5 is even better, and 7 is great. But I doubt it gets to 7. It might go up to 9.5 at some point. But Steelers have a short week, and they're playing a halfway decent Washington team that's in fight for a division. So 8.5 is a lot of points, and I'm just going to stay away from that. The total's right on there, so I'm not going to mess with that game. Bills 49ers, very interesting game. The Bills are the number 4 seed at 8-3, which is really tough. We have it at 49.26. I don't know. I think the Bills' defense is a little underrated. They're not great. They're not as good as they were last year. But I think they're a little bit underrated. And I don't know about that total. I think the Bills are not going to roll, with 35 points against the 49ers, and the 49ers are not going to roll against the Bills. So I kind of like the under here, and the Bills are a slight favorite in my model. So if either team was getting 3, I would take whichever team is getting 3. But and then you have that Cowboys-Ravens game on Tuesday, minus 7.5. We don't know what the total is yet, and I have it at minus 8.84, 46.69, and that assumes that Lamar Jackson plays. We'll have to see. You would think that if Lamar Jackson does play, that the over is in play here, because we don't know what number they're going to put out, but they put out something like 45. I would consider taking the over, because the Cowboys just give up a ton of points. They just do. So, again, the weather may also play a factor. So keep that in mind and check it on Tuesday. But that's just a prognostication, because we don't have an official line to go off of. So, all right, let's wrap it up here, and I'll give you my picks. And let's see what we got. I'm taking the Bungles again. My plus 11.5, minus 104. That might go up, but it might go down. I don't know. I would expect it would close at 10.5 or 11, but it could go up to 12.5. I'm not that sold on Tua as a great quarterback. He hasn't really had to play very tough teams, which would explain why he's probably going to start against the Bengals. But they're better than the market is giving them credit for, in my opinion. So I'm all over that. I'm going to take the Saints and the Falcons over 45, minus 105. I feel like the teams will score points. Their offenses are pretty healthy. Obviously, Drew Brees is not playing, but Taysom Hill just gets better and better as the more reps he gets. And there hasn't been a team that's been able to stop that quarterback sweep. They don't run it that often, but when they need a big first down, there's not been a team that's been able to stop it or stop him rushing in the red zone. And then finally, I'm going to take the Eagles and the Packers over 47.5. I think the Packers put up some good numbers at home. The weather looks agreeable. We'll see if the Eagles can get it together. If they can get, 20 points, 28 to 20, I see very doable here, or 35 to 17. That's 52 points. So model says take the over, so I'm going to take the over. And hopefully we'll have another winning week. So thank you for tuning in. I hope you got something out of it. Thank you for supporting the program. I'm getting lots of views, and I appreciate it. And we'll be back next week with another episode. So stay warm, stay healthy, and enjoy the football this weekend. And let me play some outro music for you, and let's get some winners. Take care, everybody.
FingerLakes1.com